Hey guys, it's Ultra Freak, and I just watched Batman vs. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2019, an animated movie, and I gotta say that this movie actually surprised me. There's a lot of things I didn't expect that it did well with, and for the most part, it's a really solid movie. So, without wasting any more time, let's get started. So, I gotta say, for the opening first scene, you know, it shows a girl with orange hair and a ponytail, and I just assumed that it was April O'Neil, and and then when the ninjas attacked, and then she started doing these like moves to like protect the guys. I'm like, wow, I didn't know April O'Neil was so agile in the show. And then when they cut to another scene, it was actually Barbara, which is Batgirl, which I didn't, know about. And I thought that was very interesting to mention, you know, combining the two worlds. Anyway, starting the review, they did a good job combining the two worlds, and I was always worried about that. And with any crossover series, they always get this wrong. They always either lean on one world than the other. They make one side more detailed than the other. But in this movie, they got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles world correctly, and they got the Batman world correctly. I'm a fan of both, and non-biased to either side. I grew up with both. It was amazing, and let's just dive in. So they did well with the balancing of both sides, and it was really good. And they also not just balanced the both of the sides, they also balanced the comedy as well as the action. And the action is not what I expect. I saw the trailer and I knew that was going to be very comedic, and I was worried about how they're going to make Batman look, because a lot of these things, of course, you can have some crossovers with Batman, whatever, but I don't like when they cross over something at the expense of someone else. Like they cross over, for example, and I hate to mention this, Teen Titans Go, you have Batman in there and then he looks like a complete idiot because of the show. So I was kind of worried about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles being with Batman, and it kind of ruined Batman's character. But they made everyone live up to their character regardless of the situation, and made it a lot realistic, which I didn't expect. And the action was amazing, and they actually showed blood, which I didn't expect. It was a really good crossover. It was a really good balance of action and comedy. It wasn't like too wonky or too dark. It was just right in the middle, and it was amazing. So let's talk about some of the contrasts that this movie had. So the contrast of New York and Gotham, I thought that was very interesting, because I was thinking that Gotham is actually based off of New York in DC Comics, and then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are from New York. So they were contrasting, comparing, and they're very similar. So I thought that was very interesting as a contrast. Now, I want to dive into character dynamics, how certain characters, interact with each other. Obviously, we saw some connections like Donatello with Batgirl, Robin with Raph, and so on. So let's start off with Michelangelo and Alfred. Now, this was very interesting. This is one I didn't see, because it was like Raphael was kind of like the kid that's always messing things up, and then Alfred had to like clean up after him. Kind of like they're all teenagers, so that's what you kind of expect. But I didn't expect them to put. I didn't expect them to put Michelangelo with Alfred. I think that was very interesting. A very interesting relationship there. It was very comedic, a lot with comedic relief. Now, I think the most fitting relationship is the next one, which is Donatello and Batgirl. Now, them being tech savvy and such, and it was a very good relationship, and I found it very interesting how they have the same color scheme. They both wear purple, and I think they made Batgirl slightly more tech savvy than usual. I mean, I know she's Oracle in the future, but they kind of combined Oracle and Batgirl at the same time, which is something very minor. That's just me nitpicking, but they did overall, good job with both of them, and I like that you have like the two smart ones of the series combined with each other to make this duo. And then next is one of the most interesting ones that fans always wanted, Damian Wayne and Raphael. Now, they both have a hot temper, and of course, I always compare Damian Wayne to Raphael because they have a very, similar temper. They're both young, and then they're both, aggressive, jump to the point. I found it very interesting that they had it like that. And then last but not least, you have Leonardo and Batman. And of course, this one's kind of obvious because Leonardo, he's a leader. He's like the most mature out of all of them. And then you have Batman, who's also like the head of the Bat family. And I kind of liked like the sparring match they had and so on. And Batman giving Leonardo some tips on how to, focus on certain things and such. That was a very interesting part that they put in there. Now, to get into basically the storyline, I think the storyline of how this unfolded is probably the best writing I've seen in a crossover. A lot of times when crossovers happen, it just happens out of nowhere. Just like somebody zaps somebody and then they end up in an alternate like reality. Like you have I literally thought this crossover is gonna happen where like the Shredder just blasts the turtles and then they end up in an alternate reality where Batman exists. That's what I literally thought, but it was actually a legitimate reason, and the reason was basically Ra's al Ghul was gonna do a trade with Shredder. If Shredder gives Ra's al Ghul ooze, which is the things that mutated the turtles, if the Shredder gave Ra's al Ghul the ooze, then Ra's al Ghul will show Shredder the Lazarus pit, which will make Shredder immortal. So I found that very interesting, and they both, have like ninja backgrounds. Like you have Ra's al Ghul having the League of Assassins with ninjas, and then you have Shredder with foot ninjas. Like it was like the best writing. Like that's the actual legitimate reasoning that you can actually see, and it's not just some random pop-up reason that you would come up with, and everything was like necessarily there. So next, let's talk about the fight scenes. Now, for a crossover, that like all the fight scenes and the character interactions were like basically on the spot, like everything you would imagine the fight scenes to be. Like it wasn't some random stuff like Michelangelo beating Batman or some, like how these series could do, like they miscalculate something or they overpower somebody or they nerf somebody, but everybody was at their superb. You have, just like if Batman were to face off against the turtles, that's exactly how it would go down. He wouldn't harm them if he didn't see them do anything bad. And for Ra's al Ghul, you have Leonardo versus Ra's al Ghul. Of course, Leonardo can't be Ra's al Ghul because of the years of experience and so on, and he stated that in the movie. I think that was a very good reasoning, and that worked out, well. And it would be ridiculous if Leonardo was able to take out Ra's al Ghul anyway, because there's a lot of people who couldn't do that, and then that would make Leonardo more powerful than them. But that's what I'm proud of in the series. Like all the fight scenes went like completely well. Just on a side note, just in case if anybody else is also wondering, I was trying to like figure out the scaling between the League of Assassins ninjas versus the Foot ninjas, and the series kind of implied that they're kind of around the same kind of exact level. There's not really one superior to the other. I think maybe the Foot ninjas might use more gadgets than the League of Assassins, but it could go either way, and they're pretty similar looking at how they both fight after Batman and so on. So they're both about the same level. That can kind of change, but there's no like gap between which one is superior to the other as far as this series went and implied. Now, of course, many things are not really perfect. There's some misleading things, and things can't just be spick and span. Sometimes there's little things that people miss and so on, and it's okay that people miss a little bit of things. Everyone is human and such. With that being said, there's a couple of things I didn't like, and very small. The main thing that I didn't like, to where like I could kind of think of that I would actually want to change, is the character of Damian Wayne. Now I understand, he's a kid and such, and a kid can't really be that intimidating, but Damian Wayne is trained by the League of Assassins, and even though he's a kid, he's still trained by the League of Assassins. His grandfather is Ra's al Ghul, his father is Batman, and he doesn't play around like in the comics. And I'm not saying like, like, if the thing is in the series, if they had enough courtesy to show Batman's, serious character, they could have showed enough courtesy to show Damian Wayne's character, because there's some things where Damian Wayne did in the series that he wouldn't do, like his actual character wouldn't do, like saying yes sir to Batman and putting down his weapons and stuff. Like, that's not really Damian Wayne. He's very arrogant, he doesn't listen, and if Bruce Wayne is not there, he will kind of like kill someone without them knowing. And he doesn't have to kill anyone in the series, I'm not saying that, but when he found the turtles in the Bat Cave, it should have kind of been game over, and then Batman should have stepped in and said something. Like, they shouldn't have Damian Wayne on the ropes. And I'm not like basically overpowering Damian Wayne, it's just that if Batman is able to wax the floor with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that much, then Damian Wayne shouldn't have a problem taking them out, And I get that like Michelangelo's shell was on him for a little comedic moment, but I think he should have been a little bit like taken a little bit more seriously. I know that the turtles are not from that universe, and they don't know Damian Wayne, so they can't take him seriously that way. The writer should have made him look a little bit more intimidating than just being a kid, because that's what Damian Wayne has. Like, out of all the Robins, he's basically like the most intimidating that will actually go that far to take someone's life, and that's the only thing I could think about as far as characters go where they kind of missed the mark. And that's basically it for the character part. Just another side note, just like it was I forgot what movie it was either Batman versus Robin or Son of Batman. It's probably Son of Batman, when Dick Grayson as Nightwing did not take Damian Wayne seriously, and then he tied him up with a bunch of bruises and called Bruce Wayne and said, yeah, this kid's saying he's your son. Like, that's an example of what should have happened to the turtles. Like, even though they didn't take him seriously, they should have kind of been harmed or, got the floor waxed with them. Because I know Dick Grayson could take out the turtles really easily. And if, Damian Wayne can harm Dick Grayson that well, then, he's beyond that. Okay, so moving on. Now, here's where the video gets a little touchy and debatable, and this part is debatable, and you probably either like it or dislike it or whatever. I have a little bit of an issue with Donatello finding the Batcave so easily, and it's not like everybody in the Batman Rogues Gallery is that dumb. You have Dr. Hugo Strange and people like Bane who figured out who Batman was after years of study and trying to trap him and such. And then you have Donatello coming into Gotham just one night, research, and then just figure out where they were. I get what they're saying when they basically implied that, yeah, you can figure out where Batman is, but to get there, you would have to swim a far distance, and that's why Donatello was able to find the Batcave, because they're amphibious, not amphibian, they're amphibious, and they could swim further enough to get there. But you could have someone like Hugo Strange, who he could find out the information the same way and then just hire Killer Croc, depending on what continuity you are, because like Hugo Strange works in Arkham Asylum, and then you probably I'm not sure if Killer Croc is even in Arkham Asylum sometimes. I don't know. He could be there, and then you have Hugo Strange hire Killer Croc to basically swim all the way to the Batcave through that same entrance and get there. Now, the reason why it's debatable is because I personally do not have a scale on how smart Donatello actually is, but I had no idea he was that smart where he can unmask Batman that quickly in just one night, basically. I think, that was too much, but I get it. It wasn't like a full action series where like everything had to connect and make sense. This is just me nitpicking. It wasn't like Donatello just looked at Batman. Oh, look, it's Bruce Wayne. I get it. He did some research and such, but that was a little bit of a stretch if it were to be that serious. And it is debatable because I know that, for example, Tails from the Sonic games is like really really smart. I forgot her actual IQ, or his actual IQ. I'm sorry, his name is Miles. I forgot Tails' actual IQ, but he is actually really smart. So people from fiction can have like these different levels of intellect. Like I wouldn't even be surprised if like you can compare Donatello's knowledge to Brainiac. I know Brainiac's knowledge is completely out of this world, but if Donatello's basically potential to become that is close enough, like for example, like let's say you have Brainiac's ship, like if you connect Donatello to Brainiac's ship, I wouldn't be surprised if he was able to handle the mental capacity of that. I know Brainiac probably is not just intellect that gets you there, it's actual, it's the actual like hardware of the body. Like Superman could go in there. I mean, Superman is smart because it's Superman, but like it's the actual like body. Like if a regular human goes there, even as smart, if you put Hugo Strange in that ship and connect into the ship, he'll probably die too because of the body or whatever. But that's just basically what I have to talk about. And yeah, to be honest, I need to read up more on Brainiac to know what would it take to connect to his ship, but that's a different topic for a different video. But that educated guess that Donatello took to just figure out Bruce Wayne's identity, I get it, he's the smart one, but is he really that smart? But that's just me nitpicking. Overall, it was perfect. The only thing that stood out was that Damian Wayne character that wasn't in character, but everything else was perfect. It really knocked the ball out of the park. Like I didn't expect it to be this way. This is why it knocked the ball out of the park. I didn't expect it to be this way. I just thought it was going to be some comedy, but the action was on point for it being a comedy. I didn't expect any blood. It was really solid, and it was probably one of my favorite crossovers. I know that's big to say, but the reason why is because they include both sides. A lot of these crossovers, like it's always like one show and then another crossover within a show. For example, you would have, let's say you have Adventure Time and regular show. It's either an Adventure Time episode with regular show in it, or in a regular show episode with Adventure Time characters in it. But it was pretty nice. I mean, to be honest, this is more like Batman with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in it because they came to Gotham, but it was still balanced. It wasn't like the Turtles were bland and there's something, because like they mentioned the history of Shredder. They have Master Splinter in there and so on and so forth. They have the Ooze. It was very well balanced. You have things of different characters counteracting with each other, and the artwork was pretty well balanced. It wasn't too wonky for the Turtles and then too serious for Batman. It was a nice balanced artwork where they could have it for both. And yeah, it was a good series, and thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll probably make more videos reviewing other things, and see you next time.